The murder of right-wing white extremist Eugene Terreblanche, the banning of a liberation struggle song, and provocative statements from Julius Malema, the leader of the ANC youth wing. This has heightened existing tensions between the races in South Africa. Does Julius Malema represent a growing frustration amongst black South Africans? And is the killing of Terreblanche a signal for white South Africans that their worst nightmare is about to come true? 16 years after the end of apartheid, and with over 800,000 white South Africans now living abroad, Africa Today asks if racial tensions will undermine South Africa's hard-won democracy.
There are fears of a looming racial conflict between white and black South Africans in the wake of the killing of Eugene Terreblanche. Some members of his group, the Afrikaner Resistance Movement, say the killing was racially motivated and partly blame the leader of the ANC's Youth League, Julius Malema, for singing an apartheid song that stirred up racial hatred.
For us, it is just a continuation of the murder of white people by black people in South Africa.
Majority of our songs, we can give you 10 songs. They sing about Boers and how Boers have brutalized our people.
An independent commission in South Africa estimates that 3,000 white farmers have been killed since the end of apartheid in 1994, compared to about 250,000 people, mostly black, who have been killed in the same period. With the country deeply divided over these controversies, Africa Today examines the impact of recent events on South Africa's race relations.
Hello and welcome to Africa Today with me, Vuyiswa. After President Jacob Zuma publicly rebuked Julius Malema, speculation was rife that he was about to be disciplined by his own party. But on April 20th, the African National Congress said it was considering dropping charges against him. Malema has apologized for his treatment of a BBC journalist who he kicked out of a press conference and accused of being an agent. Is this youthful bad behavior or a sign of something deeper? And is there really a link between Malema's behavior and the killing of Eugene Terreblanche? Here with me to discuss the significance of these dramatic events are Gugulethu Mseleku, the Managing Director of SAFISO, Thandi, Makiwane, a South African community activist, and on the telephone from Johannesburg, we're delighted to welcome William Gumede, the Associate Professor at the University of Ventersdorp and also co-editor of the recently released book, The Poverty of Ideas. Welcome to you all, and thanks for joining us on Africa Today. I'd like to start with you, Gugulethu. I mean, Eugene Terreblanche wasn't really a significant force by the time he was killed. You know, most of his ideas didn't seem to get much support, even from white people. So do you think the manner of his passing has actually tended to revive some racist feelings that many white people were afraid to express?
I don't really think that it's revived any feelings among white people, his death. I think white South Africans have tended to just stay the same. The white tendency that Malema actually spoke about, I don't think really died with the ending of apartheid in South Africa. And I think that Terreblanche's death has just given them another reason to express their discontent with our democracy. Right.
I mean, Thandi, from your perspective, I've actually heard some white South Africans here in London saying that it's such a shame because a great leader has died, which seems to tie in with what Gugulethu was saying. What do you think Terreblanche's death, the impact of it is?
I think I agree with what Gugu has just said. I mean, to be honest, Terreblanche was actually a shadow of himself. He had actually behaved continuously the same way as apartheid. He had always behaved under apartheid. There are as many, I mean, looking at the figures, there are 3,000 white farmers we're talking about against 250,000 black people died in the same country in 16 years since Mandela came out of prison. And yet such a big fuss is being made about somebody who was a fascist. I think it's an excuse to me that was actually being used. There is obviously a different generation now in South Africa, we of the older generation probably did calm down situations with all after the 1980s and try to quell down and say that Madiba is out, things will change. Unfortunately for us, we got the political right to vote, but we never got the economic freedom in South Africa.
So if I could bring you in, William, there in Johannesburg, give us a taste, if you like, of the impact of both these events in conjunction, what impact they've had on social thinking, what kind of debates people are having on the news, etc.
I think the first thing, well, I have to say the first thing is that, you know, racial relations have been tense the last couple of years, and especially the last couple of months. So, you know, the death of Eugene Terreblanche just, I think, you know, it's an event within a context of events. You know, I don't think it's Julius Malema singing off, you know, the Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer song led to Eugene Terreblanche's death. You know, I think that was something else. But I think the first significant thing is that I think farm workers and black farm workers, you know, on farms have been working like slaves into the democracy, and there has been no focus on their plight. I think this is the first important thing to understand. And I know, I mean, you know, you don't want anybody to die, and, you know, white farmers, 3,000 white farmers who, you know, who've died, you know, one doesn't want that to happen, of course. But, you know, one also has to give the context in the sense to say that, you know, the farms in South Africa and for black workers, you know, it is like, you know, apartheid hasn't moved on. Apartheid is still there. That's the first context.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
The other context is also, you must also, I think, is, you know, is a tough. The global financial crisis has had an impact in South Africa, and you know, we've lost last year 900,000 jobs, and you know, all of these uncertainties, you know, difficult economic times have increased racial tensions, and also I think also, you know, sort of a third factor, or broadly speaking, in the country there is a sense that there is no direction at the center. You know, that there's no political leadership at the heart of South African politics. And that is also creating uncertainty, and it also helps along, you know, racial tensions and so on.